Rohit, for coming on our podcast. This podcast is called The 2040 Banker. And the idea is we typically discuss how banking has evolved and financial services overall in the last couple of decades. And what do we expect, how it would move in the coming decade. And by 2040, what shape overall financial services sector will take. So that's the theme that we would talk today. Quickly, for everybody's interest and knowledge, I'll just read out your background. And I know, of course, currently you are with HDFC Life, so that's primarily an insurance company, but we see insurance and banking being the most related industries, and we'll talk more about that. And about your career, you started with your career with TCS, then you moved on to Wipro, IBM, and after that there was a financial services stint in lending with Aditya Birla. Uh, from there you went to CMS, and currently you are the CTO of HDFC Life. So while this is a very broad and very quick introduction, I would love if you can, for the listeners, you can talk a bit about some of the key highlights from your career which might be most relevant for today's discussion.
Well, thank you, Nitin. Thank you so much for having me here. Serendipity is the word that I normally use when it comes to careers, and it is. It's been a journey all through. It's a lifelong journey of exploration. When I look at my career back, uh, I started with finance
Okay.
and core finance, financial services, and and then I moved to tech and discovered my passion lied in between tech and finance,
Okay.
and that's how it moved. And by the grace of God, I've got some beautiful buffet of projects, experiences, and programs that I've had to work on. Uh, some very interesting, game-changing pieces of work. For example, I was part of. Actually, I was part of IRCTC team
Okay.
when it was getting formed, and this is 2000 2001 when it's still infancy, and we were building IRCTC, the first e-commerce site, and we saw an explosion of e-commerce activities at that point of time with the dot-com boom coming up. Uh, we actually got M-Ticket, that is mobile ticketing, live by 2003 2004. But by the time there was an archaic law, British time law, which was there had to be changed. By the time mobile ticketing came, it was 2008 2009, around that time frame that it was. So interesting things. I've also had an opportunity to be project director for the Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority. We were launching the NPS scheme now,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
in between of a bit of political turmoil right now, but interesting piece, and how we thought through the product and how we built it at that point of time with NSDL as part of it. So interesting assignments from that standpoint. Uh, been consulting for most of the bank's IT strategy in India and outside India as well. And interesting anecdotes around how similar the banking and financial sector is in India or outside India as well, the
Yeah.
way it is looked at from a larger context. After that, then from a career standpoint, we've worked on a lot on digital transformations across. And before I got I got a calling to set up digital lending almost in 2016. We were the first one to do it on cloud. And that was a clear, interesting piece which changed a lot of things. That was even just UPI was getting built at that
Yeah.
time, and we didn't have initial. And 2016 November was a watershed year in that sense. We launched digital lending, UPI was launched, and demonetization happened, and
Yeah.
and there was a geo moment in data. All these things happened at one shot.
Correct.
A lot of turmoil with that, and then we went through the ups and downs of the lending industry, uh, building products for checkout financing or wallets or for various other lending, unsecured lending platforms and secured lending platforms as well. So that's what it was. before I actually ventured into the other side of finance, which was around cash management, which was core around how the currencies moved in the country.
Yeah.
So I've been part of the currency and circulation as part of one of my roles as the technology head. There's a lot of technology which goes around physical movement of currency, right? From the security standpoint and logistics standpoint, it's a mammoth operation to move currency around ATMs specifically. The landscape of ATMs in India is one of the largest, and had the privilege of launching one of the largest IoT programs specifically for ATMs in India at that time. And then it's been the entire insurance industry that's completely sucked me in. So one challenge to other, the career is moved forward, as I said, and being grateful as well as energetic to take up challenges one to another.
Great. So I didn't know actually you started a career with financial services. Which company was that? And
That was
when?
Fortress Financial Services.
Okay.
We were into boutique financing, and this was at that point of time we were doing a lot of work on equity research. That company is still into, and a lot of it into infrastructure financing as well.
Got it.
So one of the first projects which got financed on BOT basis, a road project which got financed on BOT basis, that was in Tamil Nadu. And we were the advisors for that, and getting involved in how core financing, how infrastructure financing can be made viable across. In fact, I worked a couple of years only on infrastructure financing, specifically public sector as well as private sector, looking at how to make our mass transit systems viable as well. Since you thought about it, another interesting story. I was part of the presentation troupe, which made presentation for Mumbai Metro in 1999
Oh, wow.
to the government in Maharashtra. Finally, we are seeing the light of the day after almost 22, 23 years there.
Yeah.
But it was even the link which is active right now, the Ghatkopar Andheri link, which was done with the help of GTZ, which is a German aid agency. We were working with them as well at that time. That brings to me another interesting anecdote. So I was working on a program on advising the government on how useful it is to build the flyovers across Mumbai. So I've done a lot of infra work for World Bank.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, around 23 years back, Bombay made a slew of flyovers, like 50 odd flyovers across.
Yeah.
We were called on to study on them and figure out, does it? So we did a complete traffic simulation,
Yeah.
20 years traffic simulation,
Yeah.
with the flyovers, without the flyovers.
Yeah.
And we used advanced SACHMO program. I remember that time. It was London Transport Program. I was part of Tata's that time. And we did an environment, traffic, and economic impact assessment of the flyer. And that point of time, we had very clearly said that it is going to be detrimental to the city's traffic situation here. That's exactly what you see beyond Andheri.
Yeah.
Traffic is a mess right now. And as part of the report, we clamped down on some specific infrastructures in South Mumbai, specifically around Haji Ali and all those areas which were there. Even so people who are familiar with Bombay would know there's a suburb called Andheri. They were planning to build actually a shopping mall under a flyover, which we completely clamped down because it was quite an antithesis, right?
Yeah.
So those are some interesting pieces of finance because that was economic impact assessment that we did as part, and a lot of technology around it in terms of how do you simulate traffic 20 years hence.
Yeah. So I think you bring me to a very interesting point now. So since we started with financial services and banking discussion, but we quickly started talking about infrastructure and all of that.
Infrastructure financing is extremely important.
Yeah. And the point being, And this is a question that we typically ask to all of our guests. Then is financial services the most important industry? And we'll see that there is so much hype around. There is a dedicated newspaper that runs around financial services policies and all. So is this the most important industry in the world and in India as well? What is your perspective?
I don't know if you call it important or not important, but it's the only industry which glues together all the other industries.
Yeah.
Because finance is the industry which will glue together. And when I say glue, there's only one word which comes to my mind: trust.
Yeah.
Financial industry is known to manage trust. I won't say hold trust, but to manage trust between various parties, third parties across. That is done through money.
Yeah.
What is money without trust? Nothing. That's as ancient as when banking is. Banking is just trust, nothing else.
Yeah. And we typically get, and I think it's really good to hear your side or your perspective on this, because we hear very unique perspectives around it. But always the common theme is that, and I think you rightly put it, that this is the common industry which glues everything together. I think that's one of the key messaging that I'm taking from from this discussion today. I also now want to we talk about banking, and then there is insurance. Currently, you being in the insurance sector, how do you think the two sectors are related? How is banking and can we call them maybe the sister industries? Would that be true actually?
No, so I think they're the same industry, frankly. Uh, the business of money involves protection, investing,
Yeah.
lending, and advisory, right? And
Right.
protection is as important to any banking industry, either to protect assets, and that's where the role of insurance comes in. So you have to protect your assets, you have to protect your transactions, you have to protect your lives,
Yeah.
and that's where insurance is all about. And again, going back to the theme of trust, if you are protected, the trust increases. And that's how banking and finance are related. Protection and trust are very closely related.
Got it. And what about bank assurance, maybe for the benefit of listener and also for me? How does the bank assurance model typically work? HDFC being a leading bank, and then you have your insurance arm as well. How does the synergies come in, and what typically is a bank assurance model?
So when you go to a customer, you are giving him multiple solutions. And protection is one of the key solutions that you give to a customer. If you're giving your customer money to expand his business, he also needs to protect those business assets.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where the bank assurance model comes in. You are going as one solution to your customer on protection, on lending or financing, or on advising him how he needs to transact and manage his business interests. Well, that's exactly how bank assurance is, and it is important from a large perspective. Nitty-gritties, I think there is in terms of there are two regulators, their products are different, product manufacturing is, so as we look at it, the insurance product manufacturing is separate from the banking lending product manufacturing. So that's how they have to co-join together in terms of going to the market, right?
When you say these are two different in terms of product manufacturing is different, what differences have you seen?
Let me take a layman's example of product development. We are looking at an insurance product development, which is for protection of, for example, a life. So you will have to build a product to ensure that the life of a specific person is insured for a 30-year period or a 40-year period, and then after that, you give him options either to create an annuity out of it, or to get a lump sum money back out of it, or multiple options around it. How do you manage this entire transaction over a longer 30-40 years is a separate set of a separate set of product development exercise versus you're lending money to him, same customer, for a working capital loan going forward. So there are different parts of the product development which get invoked in terms of risk, in terms of tenure, in terms of how you are underwriting your customer. All these are separate parameters.
Got it. All right. So since we were discussing on the topic of bank assurance, I also want to understand: is it always like banking first? You get a set of customers and then plug in your insurance products, or have you seen anything like a reverse bank assurance model also in the world working out?
I have not yet seen reverse bank insurance. I would like to see that. Unfortunately, insurance as a product is a push product. It's not a pull product,
Okay.
right? So it needs to be pushed to the customer. And when you're pushing a product to customer, you would rather push it along with something. And that's how bank assurance also works.
Got it.
We're really looking forward to creating a pull product, and I think creating composite insurance would be a way in that direction.
Got it. So when you say a push product, for example, if I am buying an air ticket, along with that we bundle insurance also along.
Yes.
So this is more like a bundled product. This is what you call as
Yes.
push product,
Push.
right?
You have to you have to push the customer to buy the product. It's
Got
not.
it.
He doesn't go and I need insurance, right? It's like I need money.
Yeah.
It's not like I need insurance now.
Got it.
No customer will come to you. A lot of customers will come to you. I need money now for XYZ reasons, right? They will just keep coming to you.
Yeah.
But no one would come to you. I need
Protection now.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless he's pushed to.
Yeah.
His uncle or his cousins will come and tell you you need to invest in an insurance. Unfortunately, that's the trend across the world. I would love to see people buying more protection,
Yeah.
specifically because of 2-3 reasons. One is we will have the percentage of senior population is going to significantly increase over the next 6 years.
Got it.
By 2030 across the world, even in India. We have the youngest population in the world right now. At some point of time, we will have the oldest population mass as well.
Yeah.
That needs a lot of protection.
Correct.
People are not thinking about it.
Correct.
Large nations, established large nations like UK, US have started thinking about it, started taxing their younger generations very heavily to create that protection through NHS or through similar programs.
Yeah.
In India, we do not have that.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge for protection industry and insurance industry in India.
Got it. So talking about the overall evolution, and let's discuss again what has happened in the last couple of decades across financial services, be it banking and insurance. You touched upon some of the elements like UPI and all, but during your career, we can talk maybe 2 to 3 decades, what you have seen as a key shifts in the technology, how it changed the financial services sector. So if you can share some insights on what were the key trends that you saw, and maybe share some incidents also that you might think worth discussing today.
So I remember banking in 90s, banking by branch banking.
Yeah.
Right. That shift has come drastically as the progress of technology has happened. We lived through the age where the core banking came in.
Correct.
Right. And there was a centralized banking system which was getting implemented across all the banks that we have seen. We also lived through the system where the core banking moved to the internet banking going forward.
Yeah.
Right. And now also going to mobile banking from there onward. So we've seen shift from branch banking to a centralized banking system, to an internet banking system, and now to mobile banking system.
Yeah.
If you ask the largest of the banks in the country right now where the growth is, they would talk about WhatsApp banking.
Oh, is it?
That is where it is moving to right now. So from mobile banking, it's also gone beyond that to WhatsApp banking. WhatsApp as a channel is serving all banking needs across the country. Now that's the evolution that I have seen from a banking standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we should rely so much on SMS and telecom infrastructure from a banking standpoint. the linkage between telecom, that I'm coming to WhatsApp banking specifically now, the way we are thinking of creating digital infrastructure, we need to have a unified digital infrastructure between telecom and banking right now. It will help us manage frauds. It will help us reduce the nuisance of OTPs, as we are all aware, and also help us create frictionless customer journeys as well. But needs a lot of work in tandem between telecom as well as banking.
So can you explain a bit more on that? So when you say a unified interface between, let's say, banking and the telecom, right? How exactly would it work? Or what are the
Telecom has
asks?
verified customers,
Correct.
right?
So
And
is banking, right?
And banking also has.
Yeah.
They need to talk at the back end
Yeah.
through a digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That
Got
will
it.
solve a lot of problems and also help penetrate banking much deeper into rural areas in the country. It will create more financial inclusion.
Got it. Understood. And what do you think? How?
I think that's I'm picking up the cues here specifically of from the African experience,
Yeah.
where the telecom and the banking industry have done well.
Yeah. Whenever it is a story around telecom-led banking, I think Africa is one of the examples
Yes.
that always comes in.
Yes, but we need to look at it very differently in the context of India here, specifically from a fraud standpoint. Because the fraud has perpetuated in India from a banking standpoint or from an insurance standpoint as well, with the two siloed approaches in between between telecom and this.
Yeah. But wouldn't you say all the effort that were taken to build certain wallets that actually meant the same purpose only, right? That you basically convert your mobile phones into financial wallets through which you can do money movement, which eventually got replaced by UPI
Yes.
largely, right?
Yes.
So in a way, that phone banking has already begun.
No, but I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to go much deeper for financial inclusion, for OTP less transactions,
Yeah.
and fraudless transactions. That is extremely important.
Got it. And what are some of the key trends that you think would emerge in the coming decade? So, especially maybe you can talk about insurance or broadly as financial services. And let's say for insurance only, if you want to talk, would it be better distribution in the coming decade from an insurance company's perspective, or better acquisition, or creating more personalized products for the customer, or a better servicing experience? What do you think is going to be the key driver for a company like HDFC Life or an insurance company?
I would say all
in the
of
coming
them
decade?
first.
Yeah.
But let me contextualize the problem. Let me lay the problem. Problem one is we are underinsured in terms of population.
Yeah.
Number two, the insurance per person, the density of insurance is very, very less.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
So the depth as well as the breadth.
Yeah.
That is the problem that we are looking at from our stand. People have not insured themselves completely to the risks. One, and the breadth of the population is not insured. So to solve this, I think what is important is to embed insurance. A lot of good work was done with embedding insurance in Jan Dhan accounts, right? But I think creating better awareness about that is what is needed. Just giving you one example. So embedded insurance would be the key piece. Creating embedded insurance products.
Got it.
Distribution, I think government is already working on this, and they have solved for, and they are trying to solve for platforms, creating platforms for insurance distribution around it. What all is also important is how we perceive risk as customers.
Yeah.
And educating the customers on risk management part of it.
Yeah.
That is also extremely important for in the next 6 years that I see till 2030 specific. 2040 is for me is slightly too far stargazing, but 2030, I can definitely tell you these 2 points.
Got it. See, educating a particular customer, I think it's something which no single insurance company can do alone, right? So it has to be an industry-led effort. There has to be, let's say, macro environment, overall regulatory portion, all that would come in. But other factors which are in your control, and especially from the perspective of technology, and you touched upon the topic of embedding insurance into, let's say, ongoing transactions and products. Why do you think, or do you think creating key personalized products and offering them through embedded channel, would that become a key driver beyond other angles, of course, macro, etc., keeping them aside? Could this become the key driver? And if you as an insurance company, you have to deliver that in the coming decade, what all would you require?
So, embedded insurance requires a very close-knit ecosystem with other financial products.
Okay.
And that is something that we are driving to across. We are embedding insurance, for example, with lending. That has taken a massive uptake, in fact, over the last few years, right?
Okay.
The credit protect part of the product, that means when you take a lending product, are you insuring the person who is taking lending also or not? That's a very interesting embedded product in insurance which has seen a massive uptake, right? Just giving you an example there. But I think what is important is reaching out to the bottom of the pyramid customers.
Yeah.
And how do you reach out to the bottom of the pyramid customers? By more formalization of the economy, you're able to have better bank accounts. That's the first gateway that you need to cross to get into into the bottom of the pyramid. And then through that, offering embedded protection plans into all of them.
Got
I think, for example, crop protection. Right? That's a huge initiative by government and extremely important.
Yeah.
Right, crop protection is one of the areas from a protection standpoint. Similarly, protecting your near and dear ones, specifically the bread owners in the family. That's the second part of it that is important.
Yeah.
So similar initiatives by government across are something that will be very useful in spreading the insurance products across the population in India.
Understood. So what I'm getting is that you need to plug into several different distribution channels and make insurance available easily in those channels.
Yes.
That is building the distribution part and being strong there. What about from a pure lens of technology? How are you seeing from your priority perspective? What do you think a insurance company would require if you have to do this? We're talking about personalized insurance products. We are talking about, let's say, embedding into all different kind of ecosystems to offer your insurance products. What does that mean for a technology team?
Okay, so let me change my hats. Huh?
Yeah.
So that's a tech hat, and
Yeah.
this is something which is bread and butter. But
Yeah.
all insurance companies are data companies.
Okay.
Why? Because you have a customer for 30, 40 years. You have to keep the customer data for 30, 40 years going forward. So what is important is how the customer is, how is he progressing in his life. You need to keep a complete track.
Yeah.
I see insurance as a core data product
Okay.
offered through an API.
Okay.
That's what we will see it as in future. The more you see insurance as a data product, automatically we will see more personalized insurance going forward. And then offered through the API means you would be able to embed it across.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Data and API are extremely important play in insurance industry. And API doesn't mean just a product, right? I should be able to offer multiple products as well.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm offering, and I presume this should happen very soon, is if I'm offering a customer health insurance for 1 year, I should be able to offer him, why don't you insure your life also with me? And I'll keep renewing your health going forward. And each of the products would cross-feed each other from a data standpoint.
Which is again more personalization is
which
what,
will obviously
what we
more
are talking about.
personalization. If I know
Yeah.
his health conditions,
Yeah,
I can bring down his premium for life,
correct.
or I can take a better risk underwriting for him
Yeah,
for his health
yeah,
if I know him from a very long time,
yeah.
right? So that's what I say. What is important from a data standpoint, we will see a lot of technology coming in, especially medtech area in insurance going forward. Uh, we may not need to go for invasive tests in future unless required, really required. You're in the high risk category,
Yeah.
right? We may not need to, right? A lot of insurance companies have started. I'll give you an example. I just did a test for my BP, heart rate, etc. by just looking at the camera, and that's how it is. I answered a set of 10 questions. I look at the camera for 2 minutes, and my basic vitals are there. I'm identified as a non-risk category. My insurance is done. If I'm identified as a high-risk category, then probably I'll have to go and visit a path lab and go ahead and do a bit of more invasive testing. But at least I would have eliminated a large percentage
Correct.
of friction
Correct.
in the entire insurance buying journey. So that's how medtech is going to. More and more path labs are going into people's home than people going to path labs.
True.
We are seeing devices, and I saw a very interesting device of late, briefcase devices which are coming up, in which your technician can just walk into any home, do a set of basic tests, starting from lipid profile to blood test to other tests straight away. And it's just a question of 15 minutes. He has a report in front.
Yeah.
And once he has the report, you can insure him from a health and a life standpoint very easily. So that technology is also bringing down the friction of buying insurance.
Yeah. So there is so much, I think, hope around. And what you mentioned, I think if that technology is already working, where just through the camera images, we can actually predict the blood pressure and all.
I know of two large insurers.
Yeah. Who are using it?
Who are using it.
Got it. And have the premiums come down? So instead of, let's say, doing a carpet bombing, have we started doing more pinpoint underwriting
We've just initiated this. So it will take a few more iterations of model development. So when you are building such a model of underwriting, it will take some more time till we gather more data about the customer and the model gets a bit more intelligent, and then you will see large differences coming in premiums.
Got it. So since we're talking about data and APIs and all, I also want to touch base on what do you think the next 1 decade, how the acquisition channels would actually split? So between, let's say, your agency channels, brokers, API or digital, what do you think would be a typical split 10 years from today for an insurance company, let's say? What would be a typical percentage split for these acquisitions?
Very difficult to predict, but I see that in future we will have one advisor going to the customer. He would do protection, investing, financing, and advisory for the customer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So he would do everything, all the products. I don't need to talk to an insurance agent, then talk to my relationship banker in the bank, and then I have to go and take an advice from someone else, and then for my investing, go to another app or something and invest in a wealth product.
Yeah.
All happening through different places. I see that it's happening only on one single interface through one single person.
Do you think that single interface, would that be a person or would that be digital?
It depends on the amount of money you have.
Who? Oh,
as a customer.
As a customer. Okay.
As a customer.
I thought the bank or the insurance company.
No, it depends on the amount of money you have as a customer. Will you have it through a bot, or will you have it through a real person?
Yeah, that
or
makes sense.
Will you have it through a person who is advised through a bot?
Yeah.
All three models are available.
That makes sense. And Rohit, one more thing. So the trend that we are discussing for the next 1 decade, do you think there will be significant difference between India and rest of the world?
I see that there will be, at fundamentally financial flows are very similar across the world, right? It's very, very similar. Now, I touched upon this at the start, but banking is very similar for a ASEAN country versus a very developed nation,
Yeah.
right? Versus India as
Yeah.
well. India has some unique challenges. One, linguistic challenge, which is there. Number two, Indian challenge is with respect to cultural differences.
Yeah.
You won't find this cultural diversity except for continents, for example, Europe.
Yeah.
India also has challenges with respect to its physiology in terms of there are mountains, there are plains, there is different weathers. All this is because the customer needs and customer preferences changes with this. What I'm driving at these parameters is how customer needs and preferences change in a single country. That diversity is the challenge that India has, and how it will be different for any other other financial market versus US, for example, right? Which has very similar, very similar cultural, linguistic, differences which are hardly there in US. So those are the places why India is a very different financial market.
Yeah.
It's a very different financial. Fundamentally, obviously, the flow of money, the movement of money, the trust, those pieces will remain the same. Those pieces will definitely remain the same.
And I'm with you on that particular point, because we recently did a research report in terms of comparison of regulatory evolution between India and US. And we could see that there were so many similarities than differences actually. While you're absolutely right in terms of consumer needs, that might be different, but the frameworks which are actually governing them are largely similar in nature. So only the terminologies might actually be different between the geographies.
I want to hop on the fact that the cultural differences between the western part of the world and the eastern part of the world is stark.
Yeah.
Western part of the world, and money is about culture. That's where I'm coming from. Money is absolutely about culture and trust. So western part of the world is very transactional. The eastern part of the world, Japan, China, even India, is very relationship oriented.
Yeah.
So that's the key difference between the two sides of the coin. Same coin,
I agree.
but two different sides of the coin.
Yeah. So Rohit, before people start blaming me that financial services is a boring topic, we have kept a small rapid fire round for you, and then we'll switch gears, come back to the more serious topics again. But this is a rapid fire round if you're okay with that.
Shoot.
Yeah. And there's few questions that we have jotted down, about close to 10. There are no right or wrong answers, but audience is free to judge you for your answers completely.
Absolutely. As it's personal, it's fine.
All right. Okay. First question. In your opinion, what will disappear first? Paper checks or passwords?
Passwords.
Okay. I thought you'll say paper checks.
Everybody is yearning to get away from password. The need to this password overhang on people's brain is becoming too difficult, right? You're having apps to manage your password, so they have to disappear first.
So you're saying this is a more strong need.
Yes, there's more strong need to remove passwords. I don't know why we are still with the archaic technology of passwords.
Correct. Okay, next one. What is a better perk? Free lunch or no legacy code?
No legacy code, obviously.
Free lunch we can Swiggy. Okay. Next question. If you could automate one task in your daily life, what would that be?
I want to be very mindful of all the tasks that I do. I don't want to automate anything. Probably just make my coffee. That would be best, which could be automated.
Coffee made and served to you wherever you are.
Yes.
So you need a robot then, right?
Yes. I am a believer in mindful action. So I would rather not automate everything that I want to be.
Great. Okay, next question. Would you rather have coffee with a coder from 2005, year 2005, or a banker from year 2040?
A coder with 2005, I want to learn on his mistakes. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to learn from his mistakes and learn how a lot of good coders were there. When we used to code in early 90s and early 2000s, we used to code from scratch. Nobody codes from scratch nowadays. It's exasperating sometimes because people are just picking up pieces of code from Stack Overflow or Chat GPTs and then, stitching it together.
ChatGPT is actually changing the rules now completely. Most
I
of the
don't know. People are
doing-
using less of their minds and more of Chat GPTs.
They are.
That's the concern I have. As
Yeah,
long
most
as
of
they
the
use
people have
Chat
started
GPT
doing that.
intelligently and not to become more lazy in their intellectual thought, it's good.
Got it. Okay, one technology from the past that you are secretly glad is gone now.
Oh, that's a difficult one. But frankly, I used to use a lot of devices earlier, which are all bundled into my mobile phone now. So a digital camera. I used to have one clunky looking electronic diary where I used to have phone numbers and then I used to have some 3-4 things were all bundled into a phone. I think that's something which I'm glad it has happened.
Got it. Between these two, what do you think is more futuristic? A self-driving car or self-approving insurance policies?
Self-driving car. Risk cannot be self-approved.
Got it. Next question. In financial services, what is more challenging? Migrating to the cloud or migrating a mindset?
Migrating a mindset. Ask a technologist. He will always say that. We have a lot of Luddites across, people who don't believe in technology, people who are so averse to change.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised.
Yeah.
Even technologists themselves are sometimes averse to change, and it's very dangerous. A changing mind is the healthy mind.
Makes sense. Okay, next one. Which technology term is most overused in financial services? Disruption or synergy?
Disruption. Oh man, this word I've been hearing from childhood now, I think.
Got it. Okay, so if fintech were a sport, which sport would it be? Chess or Formula One?
Formula One, obviously.
Okay, what about insurance?
Insurance would be more chess-like.
Okay, got it. So with that, we wrap up our rapid fire round.
Thank you.
We'll come back to our original set of topics that we were discussing. And I think we were talking around digital globally, how things would move India and the rest of the world. So I'll just come back to that topic itself. In insurance specifically, what we have seen globally, there are a lot of digital distributors that have come up. And I'll just call out some names. So there is Lemonade in US now.
Yeah.
There is Bowtie that we have
Yes.
seen in Hong Kong, VSure in China.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what do you think would be a strategy for an insurance company going forward? Would it be more like that, let's partner with these people and use them as the distribution channel, or build your own distribution, build your own digital distribution yourself?
So, as part of a large banking conglomerate, we would rather do that ourselves.
Okay.
But I would not limit it to that. From a lot of insurance companies are also piggy banking on distribution channels like this. And India also has their own. You didn't mention them, but I think they are also there and doing extremely well.
Sure.
And all insurance companies are using those distribution channels as well, which is helping us.
Yeah.
Just that we need to ensure that the distribution channels reach the bottom of the pyramid in India.
Yeah.
We have not been able to do that yet.
Got it. And so what another trend that we are seeing, again, going back to Lemonade example, we could see that Lemonade calls itself an insurance app. So if you open their website, it would say the insurance app. So the next decade, would it be from a consumer's mindset perspective, would be more around an insurance institution or a company, or would they start preferring more like insurance apps in the coming age?
Insurance, specifically life insurance, is a low engagement product. It's very difficult to engage the customer for a long term because you have a 30-year-old tenure with a customer, or a 40-year-old, a large decades long tenure with the customer. I think it's more important to be ubiquitous and available whenever he needs it as an API, not as an app.
Yeah.
And available wherever he needs it or wherever his preferred go-to digital medium is. And I'm again referring to WhatsApp here. I'm referring to his banking digital channel, whichever his preferred banking digital channel is, or to if it's transaction platform, whichever he is. So you embed in that transaction platform, whichever there is.
So the more and more I'm hearing is around embedded as a trend. I think that we'll seeing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Embedded financial services everywhere, wherever the user is actually interacting.
Right.
Got it. So on that theme, actually, Tesla recently launched their real-time insurance. So you can actually, with the press of a button in the car, you can get your car insured. And there are a few insurance companies who have actually partnered there. What do you think? How long it is before I need a Tesla first or a similar car, but how long it is before in India we can start doing that? Or do we even need that? In Bharat, do we even require something like that?
Yes, why not? We should have that. Variable insurance as such is an extremely important product. And I should be able to sachetize it and do it for a specific transaction and in real time. What we need is better data for this.
Yeah.
What we need is better connectivity in terms of APIs with that. These are two specific needs. How long will it take to get the data cleansed is the biggest hurdle in my mind to achieving this.
But do you think who would lead this? Would it be led by a auto manufacturer like Tesla, or would it be led by
it
an
will
insurer?
be led by whosoever has the biggest amount of data. It could be in this case, if Tesla, if we have a software defined vehicle available and can connect that data with an insurance product, right? It could be the software defined vehicle in that case.
Makes sense.
Software defined vehicle is a very specific concept which is coming up, which is marriage of an IoT, Internet of Things, along with a software an application layer on top of it, which will actually generate a whole set of data, and that data can be definitely used by financial services.
Well, that's a great point, actually. Whoever has the data would actually lead the change. I think we are seeing
and
this.
In India, the biggest amount of data is with the banks.
Correct. But what about changes like the UPI apps that we have now, right? So they hold huge amount of data.
What type of data does a UPI app hold?
Payments.
It holds only payment data.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and the tenure of that data is still recent as compared to a bank.
Yeah.
So that's why it'll take some more time for the payment data to be useful. The payment itself has another aspect of, there's a lot of P2P payments which are being done in India.
Yeah.
It is not business-led payment. So that data may not be immediately useful for us going forward from risk underwriting standpoint.
Makes sense. Okay, now I want to talk a bit about the DPI, all the government efforts that are being undertaken in terms of, I think, several objectives that they have, whether it is Bima Sugam that has come up, or ONDC Financial Services, which has both the insurance as well as the banking aspects in it. So I have two questions for you on this. One is financial inclusion the key goal for these DPI initiatives? So I'm thinking about a country, let's say, where financial inclusion is not the key goal, something like a developed country, which might have a different priority. Would DPI make sense for those countries? So beyond financial inclusion, is there something to it? And second, what do you think how big these initiatives would become in the coming decade?
So digital public infrastructure is the need of any country across the world.
Okay.
Right? It's not. It's one of the goals of digital public infrastructure is formalization of economy, and specifically in countries like India where economy is not formal, money flows
Yeah.
in non-formal ways.
Yeah.
Right? But in formal economies, they have silos. They need to interconnect. That's where they need digital public infrastructure.
Got
Right?
it.
From our standpoint, I think how big this will be is still to be seen. I see one financial regulator going forward, and that financial regulator would be able to bring down the siloed approach that we have across financial services, not in India but across the world as well. And we will be able to offer the customer all his financial needs at one interface. That is extremely important. That is extremely important. Technology is there; it can be enabled very easily.
So that's a slightly different view that I'm hearing today, because if you look at just RBI as the entity which is governing in India, if you look at US as a geography, you would have FDIC, which is one institution. Then you have CFPB, and there are 2-3 institutions which collectively govern the banking system. And you are now talking about a scenario where even banking, insurance, and mutual funds, etc., would come under the single umbrella, which we are not seeing in those kind of geographies. Any reason you think there are still differences between India and US, the way the two are being approached? And in future, would US also think in a similar manner? Would there be a need there also to converge the
Because the
regulations?
financial products are converging.
Yeah.
My insurance is also in part an investment product.
Yeah.
My lending has insurance built on top of it.
Yeah.
Right? So products are converging. The regulators have to think through all the aspects together, and that's why I say this. I would not have made a studied comment if I would know the US regulation industry as much, but I think we should definitely look at a cross sector financial regulator, which is extremely important.
Makes sense. And since we're talking about regulations, there is a recent regulation about Data Privacy Act that is coming up in India. How is your company, and how do you think is the industry preparing for it? Is there anything special that we are all doing, or is it something that we anyway have been doing all along as financial institutions?
Data privacy has been my pet peeve as personally for me, and
Okay.
I think I've been vehemently trying to push it forward. Given a choice, I would be a bit strict in implementing it. It has to happen from a consent layer standpoint. That means the consent has to be very clearly given by the customer, and
Yeah.
that is the first step that we are looking at. Second is masking of private information and need to know basis only.
Yeah.
Right, within the organization. I'm giving you inside the organization view. From an industry standpoint, it is important to ensure that the data privacy of my customers are honored. I don't want my customer to be known by an X number. That's what it is. And where we are going forward with this is we are almost creating digital clone models of each customer going forward, which is a very dangerous situation. Your large players, e-commerce players,
Yeah.
have got such a vast amount of data that they would have a clone model by cohorts of your residential PIN code
Yeah.
available to them. This PIN code, or even this specific residential locality, even granular than that, this is a typical need of that customer, and this is how a digital clone would look like. This is what he will buy. This is when he will buy. This is the previous history. That's how they would typically do that. issue with data privacy is, one is your personal identifier information. Second is your anonymized data.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something, this is where I'm coming to. I think digital, data privacy is something has been addressed and a lot of people have spoken. But what has not been thought through completely is the anonymized data and how easily anonymized data can be misused by large platforms, right? By creating digital clones of customers. I don't want to be my persona to be cloned without my consent.
Yeah.
The law is silent on that.
Yeah.
Still.
And I read a recent report on this aspect only. I think the digital twin angle that you spoke about. So it was around that, for example, if I want to stay very private, so what all typically I would do, let's say I start using private browsing in my browser, or start using certain kind of settings in my laptop. Now, what tech companies have started doing is they've started profiling me on those aspects. If this is a person who is using private browsing, has these 5 privacy settings turned on, then this is a person who is extremely specific about privacy and security. And then they start profiling me in that manner. So, as a consumer, I'm in a mess in both the situations, whether I want to protect or if I don't want to protect.
I've been using DuckDuckGo from last 5 years
Yeah.
as a go-to search engine.
Yeah.
But still, it's extremely difficult. It's the same phenomena that you see on your phones. Even if you have not subscribed to the app in the phone, which identifies your phone number and name, still, if somebody has tagged you in, your data is out.
Yeah.
Your data is out.
For the sheer reason your ISP knows that maybe you use DuckDuckGo, if they know that, or if your laptop has profiled that you use DuckDuckGo, that basically means that you are somebody who is very extremely cautious about privacy.
Of privacy.
That gives away your personality.
So I think in a digital world, it's a challenge for, I think, our generation. Privacy is no longer there. One. Number two, you can't erase anything in internet history. These two are areas which are extremely. We don't know the repercussions of this in a digital world.
Yeah.
And when I talk about digital culture, I talk about these two things extremely. I'm worried about these two things, frankly, for my next generation.
Yeah.
For example, we just click photographs of streets and post it on the digital mediums.
Yeah.
Who gave you consent to post a business house or a person walking on the street?
Yeah.
Or even your own child.
Yeah.
You're creating a digital history of your child without his consent. So privacy has very different connotations. From a financial world standpoint, I think as long as we honor his privacy, his financial transactions privacy, is what we have to focus on currently. I don't know where the other conversations will lead to.
The rest of the one is difficult. So even if once DPDP comes in force as a law, and even if all the financial institutions actually apply, still the question of digital privacy would remain there, since the
Digital
moment we are on
privacy,
internet,
yes.
it's difficult.
The Data Privacy Act takes care of the consent layer. It takes care of the privacy of your data, how it is maintained, measured. That is done. But the deeper questions are still unanswered.
So coming back to the question of trust, maybe this could be another business model for HDFC. Once you have been certified for trust and for DPDP, maybe you launch your own browser. Would that ever happen?
That's quite guess. I can't guess on that.
Because if I can't trust, let's say, large tech companies, maybe, and I still trust my bank, would I start trusting them for my software needs? Would that ever happen?
It could happen. I can't say yes or no to that, but yes, it could happen.
All right. Okay, so I have last question for you now. So we talked a lot about, I think, how the evolution has happened and what is going to happen. But today, how is your team structured in terms of technology team? What are several components of technology team that exist in HDFC Life? And have you seen any change in the last 1 decade? How the teams have evolved? Any skill sets that have changed? And do you see any trend changing in the coming years?
Yeah, so there have been quite a upheaval in terms of technology team structuring. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, multiple technologies which have been introduced. All the three reasons. Post-COVID, what I'm looking at is hybrid work culture, which is there. But more and more technology teams are preferring to work in one location specifically. My favorite line is rockets are not built in remote.
Yeah.
You have to be at the launch station to build the rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're doing some routine maintenance, production support work, you can work out of remote. Or if you are an individual contributor who has a very defined contribution scoped out clearly, you build your thing and move out. But you will never get that sense of ownership of building the complete piece if you're in remote.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think the organization that we have are slowly evolving to evolving to be in P pods going forward. And these P pods are self-sufficient in terms of product, in terms of technology, right? And also in terms of building the UI UX also inside the same P pod. So we have a pod for a specific product or a customer or a segment, whichever way we would like to, and we handle it end to end with that owner. End to end for that requirement in the pod itself. That's where we are going from a team structuring standpoint.
Got it. So great.
And more and more towards open seating.
Open seating.
Seating.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also extremely important. People get attached to the chairs, and so just sit open. Open conference room, open seating. That's so important. It's extremely important.
Can there be a counter to that also? Because I've seen a lot of people actually experimenting with open offices. And then later they would also say that this is also, I think they get distracted by people constantly.
So, it comes with sense of responsibility. You have to adhere to the social norms of open seating. At the same time, it has to have a balance. There are some conversations which need to happen inside a closed door room. That needs to happen. You'll have to have that. Doesn't mean open seating, doesn't mean zero rooms.
Understood. So great, Rohit. Just last closing thought from you. So if you just have to give one piece of advice, and again, you can wear your CTO hat. So if you have to give just one piece of advice to the CTO and CIO of, let's say, an insurance or a banking company who is building today, for the next 1 decade, what would that be?
I think it's extremely important as a technology leader to have a decadal thought. Think in decades. Do not think in 2 years, 3 years. Right. And try and see which technologies will change. Technologies will change every generation. And technology, one generation is 3 years. Right. So they will change in 3 years. But still your thought process should be there for 1 decade.
Yeah.
So if you want to do anything transformational, you'll have to look at what would happen in 1 decade, what kind of products would be there, and would what you're building right now hold water after 1 decade or not. So that's a clear ask from a standpoint. Also keep a very close eye on how, as a technology leader, it becomes very easy to focus and close your doors into under the hood technology, right? You'll have to keep a very good eye on business as well in terms of where the business is moving on to, what the trends are, so as to marry your technology along with the business trends which are coming in future.
Great advice, Rohit. And I think it ties really well to, since you talked about a long-term vision and a decade-long vision, it ties really well to our podcast topic, since we wanted to talk about how banking is going to evolve by 2040. That's what we are trying to understand from all the people that we get on the podcast. I really loved having this discussion with you. Thank you so much for sparing your time and coming here and having this discussion with us. Hope you also, I think, liked the format and I think whatever we discussed today.
Thank you, Nitin. Pleasure having you, talking to me. Thank you
so much. Thank you.